everybody, it's Romania Black, and so we are finally starting our Neon Genesis Evangelion manga review. I'm very excited for this. I wanted to save the manga for last. I had a lot of people suggest that I watch the rebuilds last, and I was like, oh, I could do that. But in all honesty, I wanted to end with the manga because I like finishing a story out with the manga. I like doing the anime first. If I'm going to do a series where I do the anime and manga, I like doing the anime first and then the manga after it. Because I feel like you can kind of get in a little bit more depth with the manga, and it's always nice to have like a referential to the anime as well. So I'm glad that I watched the rebuilds when I did, because as much as I love the rebuilds and Thrice Upon a Time had definitely a conclusion feel to it, I am excited to go back to the roots and back to the manga series, which I feel is going to tie more into the OG series. So I'm pretty excited about that. So what I'm doing is I'm actually doing volumes 1 through 3 in this video, which is like 530 pages worth of manga. But I got these off of Amazon, and Kindle has a thing where they do volumes 1 through 3, 4 through 6, 7 through 9, 10 through 12, and 13 and 14 all bundled together. And the artwork is great. And I was like, you know what? I wanted to be able to record it. So yeah, we'll just do that. So I am supporting the official release. I did go out and buy these. So I'm not reading off a fan site. These are the official English translations that have been sold through distributors. So I'm supporting Neon Genesis and Anno the best way that I can. Aside from buying the actual volumes, which that'd be awesome to own one day. I'd love that, but what can we do? So yeah, so I'm going to be reading volumes 1 through 3. I have no clue how long it's going to take. I'm probably going to do more with this like I do with the Attack on Titan manga reviews that I'm doing. With other series that I'm just solely reading the manga, I'll read it all like I'm reading a story. But with this, because I know the story, we've watched how many rebuilds and 26 episodes of the original series, I'm probably going to treat this like Attack on Titan and go through page by page, but talk about it as we go. So it will not be just me like reading the story straight, but it will be up here that you can see alongside of it for parts of it as well. So yeah, Milani, and basically going through and talking about it as we review it, right? Because it'll be my reaction to seeing this manga for the first time. And it's written, the story and art is by Yoshiyuki Sadamoto, so it's not exactly Anno, although if I'm remembering correctly, Yoshiyuki was the one doing a lot of the Kaoru stuff from the series. So I'm excited to see like good artwork. I'm excited to see a little bit of a new story. I'm excited to see Kaoru in manga form. So I have priorities. But before we do that, I do have some comments. These are mainly actually from the Discord. I'm going to wait and give another week before we get into, I'm doing some pre-recording for the holiday season because I'm taking off some time to visit family and friends. So I'm not going to be recording like I normally do. So I'm trying to get a little bit ahead before I do that. So I'll have comments from Thrice Upon a Time, from YouTube and Twitter, YouTube and Patreon, and maybe Twitter, as we go in the next recordings of the manga. But for this one, I did have some comments that were straight from Discord. Like we talked about Thrice Upon a Time on the Discord, and there were some things that stood out that I thought were pretty good. Melania the Severed talked about how the in-train sequence, and actually they shared a video of it, is from the Ube Shinkawa station, which is from Anno's hometown in Ube. And I was like, that's so cool that Anno was able to showcase his own, where he grew up at in his actual movie. I'm like, that's so cool. I love that. So it was really cool. Nicholas talked about how the parts of Shinji as a drawing, like right before Mari does the Little Mermaid hair flip in the ocean, those parts where Shinji slowly becomes a drawing together was actually done by Studio Ghibli, and they did it with traditional 2D cell animation. And I'm like, look at you, Studio Ghibli. Knew we could count on you. But I also like the fact that after all these years, Anno finally got to work with Studio Ghibli again. I'm like, that's so cool. I love it. But also, noting that Asuka playing the game throughout the entire Thrice Upon a Time, it's the same game that she got back in the 2.2 movie, the 2.22 rebuild. And it's basically her way of disassociating from Shinji the whole time by hiding behind by the video game. It's her Hedgehog's Dilemma. It's her headphones that she can use to cut off herself from the rest of the world. Bright Girl talks about how there is a theory that has been going around. Now, Bright Girl does not ascribe to this theory. Bright Girl is saying that no, Anno and his wife have denounced it many a time, but that Mari is based off of Anno's wife because she has similar glasses. and that a lot of people ran with it, saying that it was fuel for Shinji and Mari's ship. The more I've thought about it, the more I don't like Shinji and Mari as a ship, because Mari technically like introduced Gendo and Yui to each other, and then she's dating their kid. Nah. I like Mari maybe more as like a mentor figure, where she's like, I'm this big boobed mentor figure, and Shinji's like, you are. And Shinji, the comment where Shinji's like saying, well, you're cuter than ever, it's like he's grown up and he's trying to like ES and her, and like kind of get back at her and like show her that he's not going to be teased by her. Maybe that's the case. I could go with that. But yeah, Bright Girl does not ascribe to that fan theory, and I don't either. So there's that. Nuclear Gandhi basically also said that Mari is like a manic pixie dream girl. Nuclear Gandhi had a really cool comment in the Discord saying like, Mari is, you know, she's not real. She's not like, real girls are not like Mari. And I'm like, no, not really. She is very much the manic pixie dream girl trope. She does not exist in real life. Do not think so. And she's not developed enough. I wish her character had more development. Also, I like Melania the Severed said that Shinji remade the world. Could have done anything. Could have remade it however he wanted to. And he chose to be a salary man. But we were joking in the Discord. We're like, well, okay, yeah, Shinji's a salary man, but, you know, he secretly has a mansion. Totally loaded. He's just doing the salary man, you know, to be humble or whatever. Like, it's fun. MK talked about, or MT, oh no, I can't read my own notes. Melania the Severed talked about how there is the book series that Rei is reading with Tsubame is actually a book series written by Anno's wife, which I think is freaking adorable. And I love it so much. I like that Anno's wife got to like do a little like kind of, you know, name drop on herself in that film. That's fun. Nicholas also talked about how Shinji does not say a word until 40 minutes and 36 seconds into Thrice Upon a Time. He doesn't speak at all for the first 40 minutes of the film. Okay. I said in the Discord, it's kind of like End of Evangelion, because during End of Evangelion, Masato like strings Shinji along for like the good third of the movie, and Asuka kind of does the exact same thing here. So that parallels right there. Also, the helicopter that Kaji flies off with in Thrice Upon a Time is seen in 3.33. It's the same helicopter that is featured amongst the skulls that have piled up next to Black Lilith and all that fun stuff. So there's that. That's a cool little moment there. I like that there's lots of moments from 2.22 and 3.33 that are referenced and tied back to Thrice Upon a Time. It does help add some continuity and threading things together where you feel like it was relevant and important to have watched all of the films. I like that. And then finally, I will say that there are moments, the moments with Kaji talking to Kaoru at the end of Thrice Upon a Time when they're together on the battleship, it mirrors in 2.22 where Kaji's talking to Shinji at the aquarium, like these same poses, similar conversation topics. It's mirroring there. So I thought that was really, really fun. But yeah, so I'm excited to see what all we're going to get with this manga and what all is going to happen with it. I love the cover already. The cover's got Shinji and the O1 unit on it. I've been told there's not a lot of people that react to the manga. So if this is a trailblazer to get other people to react to it and talk about it too, I'm on board. So we're going to go over this manga and then we will go back and talk about it briefly. It'll probably be a pretty short video because I'm probably going to spend most of the time talking in the link down below. But otherwise, we'll see. So we're going to start Neon Genesis Evangelion, the manga, volumes 1 through 3. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, okay. This is really good. Oh my God, I could stare at, I feel like as I'm going through talking about this volume, I'm going to be taking screenshots of the manga to put on the Discord and to put in the thumbnail and on Twitter. I feel like I'm going to be doing that because Sadamoto's art is just like, mwah. It's so good. It's so freaking beautiful. And I have a feeling that I think I'm going to absolutely love. I'm glad I bought these, honestly. I'm very much I'm a physical person, that I like manga that is physical. I like being able to sit in a chair and like have a cup of coffee and like look through a manga. And so I would eventually like the physical copies at some point, but I'm glad I have the digital copies. So at least I can sit there with like a tablet or something and like scroll through it. I guess there is that. but it's not the same as having a physical copy. So one day, but I am glad I have the digital copies because these are freaking gorgeous. The artwork is stunning. I love the colors. Like some of these look like paintings. Like the opening with Sachiel looks like a painting. It's so damn good. I'm like, what is this? What is this, Sadamoto? It is just, how did you even... I'm glad they put the 3 volumes together. I like the omnibus edition where you have 3 volumes. It was, 524 pages of amazingness that we just read through. I feel like I skimmed pretty quickly through it. However, mainly that was because I have read this series before and I've watched this series before and seen the rebuild. So especially this first volume, there wasn't a whole lot changed in it, but there were some very interesting changes and some things that were talked about that I was like, okay, I like how this does this. The manga does a pretty good job of adapting it and making it a little bit better because here's the thing. Film is one thing, like a TV series, a movie. You have, basically we're looking at 3 different mediums, and we've technically looked at 4 different mediums in my review on this channel of this series. We've looked at the audio drama, which had to make adaptations and do its own thing because it's more of an audio medium and not a visual one. So there had to be that. So that was one way of looking at Neon Genesis. You have the television series, which a television series and a movie are 2 different ones in my opinion. A TV series, you can adapt the narrative structure, the style of it, the dialogue, the pacing. It can be a totally different thing, whereas a movie is bound and restricted by a time limit. And so you have to kind of make decisions that will allow it to fit within those constraints. So those are 3 mediums, and this is the 4th one, which is the manga format. And for a manga, the one thing that is nice about books and graphic novels is that you can get away with having a lot more internal dialogue with a character and monologuing or soliloquies because you're sitting there reading it. You don't have to actually sit there and watch it play out. You can take it at your own pace, right? So it doesn't ever feel like, I don't feel like the monologues in this, they don't mess up the pacing because there really is no pacing. You're reading it at your leisure, however you want to go through it. So I think you can get away with making Shinji a bit more introspective in this and have more emotions come out to the surface because it's a graphic novel. You can just get more leeway with it. But yeah, this was really great. There were some interviews I wanted to read with you all as we go through this, but I mean, it goes pretty much beat for beat through episodes 1 through 6, which I'm guessing we're going to have Asuka probably up to episodes 12 and 13 for volume 2. And then volumes 3, which will be 7, 8, and 9 will be like up until Toji gets and becomes the 13th angel. And then volume 4, which is going to be the omnibus, it'll be 10, 11, and 12 will probably be leading up through Rei and Asuka's whole backstory. And then the last final volumes will probably be Kaoru. That'll actually add up. I'm excited. Cool. Because yeah, we don't get Asuka at all in this. One thing I love that they did in the manga though is they showed Rei in the O1 unit fighting Sachiel right off the bat. And I feel like it's apples and oranges. You could either look at it one of 2 ways. You could be like, oh no, I like Shinji. I like the mystery of the angels and the mystery of not seeing the Eva for the first time until Shinji. It's jarring because it's apples and oranges. On the one hand, I do like that opening shot where you just see the Eva head and it goes poof, and it's right there in front of Shinji, and that's the first time we ever see the Eva. I love that. But in terms of contextually where Shinji's at emotionally in the series, I like the idea that Shinji sees Rei fighting in the Eva right off the bat, so it gives him more context of what he would be doing inside the Eva, and then gives more context to what has happened with Rei and her getting injured. It makes more sense, but yeah, if you didn't like that, I could see that being okay. And if you did like it, I could see it being okay too. So again, it's literally apples and oranges at this point, whichever you prefer. But yeah, Masato's character is pretty much the same. We go with them going there. Gendo is much more villainous in this manga. He really is. They ham it up. That scene where he was in the hospital and looked at Shinji and then looked at Rei and left with Rei. What the fudge? I was like, especially after the rebuild, when you see Gendo's whole backstory, I was like, knowing that backstory, and then you see that moment with Gendo, it's absolutely hilarious. I'm like, oh my god, I want to get a picture of Masato with her like Saitama like mob face. But yeah, the illustrations, that Sadamoto does are gorgeous, and they're so vivid and expressive. And Gendo is very expressive. Like in the anime, Gendo's often in the shadows, which is fine, but here he's like there's so much line work with his face, and he has so much more expressions. He's like smiling a lot more. He smiles at Shinji. It kind of is crazy to see him like this. And we get a little bit more of Shinji vocalizing his mood. And because in the anime, we really don't get to know a whole lot about Shinji. We have to kind of fill in the gaps. But here we get more insight into Shinji and what he's thinking. And like the idea that he doesn't want to be the pilot, the idea that he finds himself like isolated from his dad and his family. We get some, in the anime, it's called Sensei. And here it was his uncles. It was like, I guess Yui's parents or Yui's siblings. But yeah, it's God. And then the whole thing with the reunion, and I'm going to get a picture of the image of the cover art was really good here. I loved the cover art spreads. I really think that Sadamoto did the Pokemon one. Now that I'm thinking of it, I'm going to have to look it up now. I'm going to have to look it up. I am going to have to look it up. But yeah, I just, oh my God, it's great. I swear though, when we can talk about the Rei thing, we'll get to it. But yeah, Gendo, the line work and everything, it's great. As I'm going through this, the big thing in the opening was just changing. I like that even when they're going towards the EVA unit, they're not like going up the escalator and stuff like they were in the anime, but you still see the hand and stuff coming out at Shinji like in the anime. It was great. And then yeah, we have the whole deal with Shinji denying that he wants to pilot the EVA. And it's about as you expect. It goes pretty much the same way, and then Rei shows up, and I love the use of lighting though, where they show like the light shining on Shinji a lot, like it's very angelic. Surprising no one. But yeah, and so then, and although we don't have the beast moment, the moment with the eye and the beast is still one of my favorite moments in the whole anime, and it's not in any adaptation. It's not in this, it's not in the rebuilds. I'm like, you couldn't, it's not in the recap. I'm like, you couldn't show us that eye moving again. Why not? But they don't. Whatever. But I do like in this one that Yui, it's almost like Yui in this like has the Eva face, and it's all like deconstructed, and it's just gross, and the eyes are gouged out and they're bleeding. It's like, what the hell? It's pretty freaky. I will say though, I am going to look up and try to find for you all. I don't know if I'll be able to show you the comparison. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you the comparison, damn it, of Sally and them finding the mom and the gold. I can't remember if it's Sally or in the comic book she has a brother named Elias, and I can't remember if it's either one of them and it's them seeing the mom and the gold. I swear it's Sally, but I swear it's Neon Genesis reference. It's referencing this manga. I swear at some point the animators, the illustrator for the Sonic the Hedgehog comic, read this manga and was like, we can do that with Sonic the Hedgehog. I will make note, there's a lot of moments in Sonic the Hedgehog in the comic series that Archie Comics did where there were a lot of references to other shows and things. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was a Neon Genesis reference, but I'm going to try to find it and compare it up here with y'all so you won't think I'm crazy. Because I swear I read those comics as a kid so much, and I'm like, I know I've seen it. So if I find it, I'm going to put it there. And if not, I'm going to put a note saying I tried and I failed. But I swear it's there. I just, looking at that, I'm like, oh my God, no. But instead, I like that the Eva looks like this monster. It looks like a straight up monster. And him and poor Shinji like screaming for his parents as this thing, like it's trying to hug him. It's breaking through his AT field and trying to embrace him. And Shinji's like, it's a monster. It's very Frankenstein-esque. It's very cool. I like how it's done throughout this. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, so also, I guess we might want to talk about like Toji and all this. Toji having this like horrifically thick Kansai Ben accent it's worse than a fanfic. It's worse than a Haikyuu fanfic where it's Atsumu, where it's the Mia brothers being like, oh yeah, Shoto Hanada, get your volleyball. I don't know how in the world why I'm giving him that accent, but yeah, just the yurs and the doins and the apostrophes. It's pretty thick, but I'm not going to complain because Toji's drawn so well in this. Him and Ida both. Him and Ida look absolutely wonderful. I love how they're drawn in this series and how they're portrayed. And Toji, right from the start, is just portrayed like, has that cocky, like the way his pose is. What I like that Sadamoto does is give them all very distinct poses and attributes. as just even illustrations, you can tell. It's really, really good. So yeah, I'm getting near the end of here before I'm getting ahead of myself. But God, yeah, I can't get over Gendo just leaving Shinji. It's absolutely hilarious. I kind of like it though, because it helps to explain why Katsuragi was so eager to have, and so wanting to have Shinji stay with her. It wasn't just like a weird, like Akagi jokes it's like a sexual thing in the show, and it's like, is that really what Masato thinks? But no, here she feels bad for Shinji because his dad was being a dick to him. So she offers him a place to stay with her. So I kind of like that. I like that it's handled that way. It's really nice. And it helps to like, and then we see them like looking over the city that they saved together. And that's really cool. Just like in the anime. I like it. But yeah, and then Shinji actually crying in the scene at the end where he's like, I wanted to hear my father say these words. I wanted to hear my father tell me that it's our city that we saved and that he was proud of me. Like, I kind of like that. I kind of like that Shinji has a moment where he breaks down. And he's like, I just want my father to notice me and give me love and affection. And I'm glad you are, Masato, but I wish it was him. Okay, so Anno. We have an interview with Anno in this, right? And so it says, Hideaki Anno, what were we trying to make here? A question asked prior to the premiere of the Neon Genesis Evangelion animated series. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The year 2015. A world where 15 years before, over half the human population perished. A world that has been miraculously revived in a material sense, production, distribution, and consumption all in order, so that even the convenience store shelves are now full again. A world where people have become accustomed to the resurrection, yet still feel the end of the world awaits them. Ooh, nice. A world with few children left to lead it into any future. Ooh. A world where Japan saw the original Tokyo destroyed, discarded, and forgotten. A new capital, Tokyo 2, was built in Nagano Prefecture and left as a decoy, while they built another new capital, a third city called Tokyo 3, and tried to make it safe from attack. A world where entirely unknown entities called angels then come to ravage the cities. This is roughly the world view of Neon Genesis Evangelion, one drenched in a vision of pessimism, one where the story begins only after all traces of hope have been removed. And in that world, a 14-year-old boy shrinks from human contact, and he tries to live in a closed world where his behavior dooms him, and he has abandoned the attempt to understand himself. I love this. A cowardly young man who feels that his father has abandoned him and has convinced himself that he is a completely unnecessary person, so much that he cannot even commit suicide. There is also a woman, 29, who lives life so lightly as to barely allow the possibility of human touch. She protects herself by keeping relationships on the surface and by running away. Just like Shinji! Both are greatly afraid of being hurt. Both people are unsuitable. They lack that positive attitude to be what others would call heroes of a story. Nevertheless, they are heroes of this story. They say to live is to change. I started this production with the wish that once the production was complete, the world and the heroes would change. That was my true desire. I tried to include everything of myself in Neon Genesis Evangelion. Myself, a broken man who could do nothing for 4 years. A man who ran away for 4 years. One who is simply not dead. Then one thought, you can't run away, came to me, and I returned to this production. My only thought in making this was to burn my feelings into film. I know my behavior was thoughtless, troublesome, and arrogant, but I tried. I don't know what the result will be. I don't know what will happen to Shinji, Masato, or Rei. I don't know where life will take them, because I don't know where life is taking the staff of the production. I feel I'm being irresponsible, but it's only natural that we should synchronize ourselves with the world within the production. I've taken on a risk. It's just an imitation. And for now, this is all I can write to explain. But perhaps our original lie lies somewhere out there. July 17th, 1995. In the studio, a cloudy, rainy day. P.S. By the way, I took Shinji's name from a friend of mine. Ritsuko's was from another friend in middle school. Masato's came from the heroine of a manga. I borrowed from everywhere. Even names that have no bearing on anything actually came from the countless rules that govern these things. It might be fun if someone with a little free time could research them. Oh, Anno! Oh my god! Oh, Anno! Look at you. That was a beautiful breakdown of the whole series. That was a beautiful breakdown of Masato and Shinji in this volume. Like, if I'd had that from the start, we wouldn't have had hour-long discussions. Anno just spelled it out plain and simple. Look at that. God. So we have Ikuto Yamashita. The design concept is enormous power restrained. Mecha designer from Neon Genesis Evangelion anime. So how did the Evangelion wind up with that look? I figure that from now on I will hear that question countless times. The director instructed me to make the image of a demon. A giant just barely under the control of mankind. I had the feeling I'd seen the image somewhere before. What I had in mind was the fairy tale Gulliver's Travels. Enormous power restrained. Oh, because yeah, in Gulliver, he's huge, but he's bound up with all these restraints. Oh, cool. And I wonder if what I came up with was what the director was driving at. Or was I simply some pre-proposing unknown leading a charmed existence? What I came up with was a giant that looks like a relief on a wall. To achieve my selfish desire, I happily discarded the efficiency and feeling of giant size that you can guess at by sight alone. But I should talk about here how my own weaknesses were handed to Evangelion's animators and animation choreographers who, with courage, craft, and technique, managed to deal with them. It was such a feat, such as I would have been glad to take pride in. But when the designs were first handed in, it caused a stir. And yes, among the staff too, where both positive and negative opinions were flying. And from here on out, I imagine they will continue to cause controversy among both those who read the manga and who watch the anime. And probably every time I will be asked the same question. How did the Evangelion wind up with that look? In the manga and in the anime, I hope we will be watching as events unfold. Oh, I love it. Awesome. Great. That's awesome. That's pretty cool. So again, I liked this cover shot of Masato where she's on the bike looking very much like Bulma, very Dragon Ball-esque, very Akira Toriyama. And then that shot of Rei with the damn chair, with the chair that's Shinji's chair and it's toppled over. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, am I taking screenshots of these to use as wallpapers on my desktop later? Probably. Probably. I'm just saying it's likely to be the case. But yeah, oh my gosh. So then we get Shinji moving in. Now he doesn't have the crossing the threshold moment that he had, in the anime and the rebuilds, which is a little bit sad, but it's okay. But yeah, I will make note of this. There are sexualized shots in the manga, but they are fewer and far between. And what I appreciated about this was that it almost felt like the rebuild fan service is probably one of my least favorite aspects about it because it doesn't seem like it has any point to it except to be like, oh, look, audience, boobs. And like that seems to be like the main reason behind it, which is not, I feel like it gets away from End of Evangelion, from Neon Genesis and End of Evangelion itself. But what I liked about the original series, and we've talked about this in the discussions, was that anytime there was nudity or sexualization, it was done to make a point. And the point wasn't just to, give fanboys and fangirls what they want, but it was to do so to make a statement within the story that, yes, this is uncomfortable, or yes, we're not supposed to feel this way, etc. We're supposed to think a certain way about it. And then in this, I feel like it's almost tastefully done in this. Like the nudity is very tasteful. And I wonder if that's just Sadamoto being like, I don't really want to draw it that way. But man, we get Toji introduced in here, and Toji is just, God, he's drawn so well. And him and Ida. There are definitely moments now that make sense of why Ida is attracted to Asuka. Like, they make sense. I'm like, oh, it's all coming together, right? I'm like, I see what we're doing. Okay. I wanted to almost make like an Ida counter being like, this is why he's dating Asuka. This all makes sense. Thrice Upon a Time is perfectly understandable now. But yeah, so we go through the motions of pretty much episode 3. I do like the pose that Shinji is in. He kind of like, he's in there. And we also get a little bit of introspection into Shinji being self-aware that his father doesn't like him. He feels abandoned. We get a little bit of like the emotionality Shinji is going through and how he feels. We also get the fact that Shinji reads Misato's like journal and finds out that she's being his keeper, and he's obviously not very happy about that, right? It kind of also explains why my bangs are driving me crazy. It explains why he feels a certain way throughout episodes 3 and 4, that he feels kind of like isolated and that he's being treated like a child. I laugh because I'm getting to the point where Toji is just standing there with his legs spread, trying to look badass. Mm-hmm. But in this version, Shinji doesn't punch Toji. He doesn't punch him back. He walks away, right? He just doesn't want to do it. Yeah. He's like, if you want to punch me, go ahead. It's fine by me. But just don't hold back. And that's when Rei shows up, right? So I do like that Shinji kind of stands up for himself throughout this. It's kind of neat. He doesn't seem quite as like meek and, I guess, not sluggish, but he doesn't seem as sheepish as he does in the original. I do like the image as well. There's so many good shots of Toji that I'm going to take images of where Rei like walks in on them all and they're just like in the midst of attacking each other. It's great. It's super cute. I'm going to move some of these over here. But yeah, so then we get Sachiel showing up. Good old Sachiel. It's a great time. Sachiel was the first one. Then we have, is it Samsel? We get them kissing at the end of this, which is great. I'm going to go find that part in here where we have the little angels kissing in this little comic strip. It's really cute. And I think it's the one where we have an interview with Shinji's voice actress, which is really cool. I wanted to read it for you all. So hold on, let me find that. I do like that at the very end, Shinji, he says that he's fine. And Toji, I really think this is going to build up to Toji being the fourth child, because what the manga does is a great job foreshadowing this moment where Shinji doesn't have... It's funny because in the manga version here, Shinji doesn't really go berserk. Misato's like, okay, you can run away now. And Shinji's like, no, I'm not going to. And she's like, you're an idiot. But he doesn't really go berserk like he does in the original. He just decides that he's not going to run away and attacks the angel. And at the very end, it makes more sense in the anime why he acts so emotionally around, Toji and Ida, because he just went berserk and is having like a freak out moment, and then all of his emotion bubbles out. But here, it's a lot more subdued and restrained. But I still like that we get shots of Toji looking at Shinji like, what's up? Like, this is really what you're going through? Like, oh my God. And I think it's a nice foreshadowing of kind of the turmoil that Toji's going to go through when he's picked as the fourth child. So it's a nice little foreshadowing that the manga does for that. I really like it. But yeah, so we get to chapter 11 and go through that. And Shinji gets sassy with Misato, like we've seen. And then she just kind of slaps him. And then he just decides he doesn't want to be there anymore. She gives him the option and he decides that he wants to go. And then we kind of go through everything that happens in the Hedgehog's Dilemma. So get through that. And then, yeah, Toji wondering where he is, blah, blah, blah. Now, one thing they do change is at the very end, I do like the anime more in regards to the anime not only shows Shinji like going through the mountain scenes and like a little bit more introspective, but at the very end, what I did like about the anime is that Shinji does not get, like, no one comes after him at the very end to try to talk him out of leaving. Shinji makes the conscious decision to not go. And it's Shinji's choice and nobody influences him, right? And I love that about the end of episode 4. And here, it's very emotional and it works, but in the end, I don't think it hits as hard as when Shinji makes a choice himself. In the end, Misato kind of, helps to persuade him to stay. So it's okay. Again, apples and oranges. I like both versions, but it's very apples and oranges. So yeah, all right. So we have an interview with Megumi Ogata, who is Shinji's voice actress, and the voice of Shinji Ikari in the Neon Genesis Evangelion anime. And the tagline is, "Don't run away, don't run away, don't run away." All right. With all my respect to the two Shinjis, I have just finished reading the script for episode 18, Choice of Lives. My whole body is aching. It feels as if my heart has swollen up and expanded into my throat. But that's usually what happens every time I read a new script for Evangelion. At first, for a while, I don't feel like doing anything. I feel empty, void of strength, and exhausted. And then I finally switch into LCL mode. The depths of my lungs fill with the scent of blood. I feel oddly warm, gentle, nostalgic, desperate, and lonely. I get into the fetal position and fall asleep. The first time I encountered Shinji's character, I thought he was so sensitive. He's not very main character-esque, but he's simple and has a kind face. When I first met Sadamoto, I was surprised by how much he fit my image of Shinji. When I giggled, he gave me a look like, "What's so funny?" I remembered that Sadamoto, his expression looked so much like Shinji's. I got even happier and started to laugh out loud. I'm really sorry about that, Sadamoto. It's the same with Anno. When I'm talking to the director, you would think it would be different, but I can see Shinji peeking out from the shadow of his beard. When I go to touch him, thinking, hey, Shinji, he suddenly changes into Masato. And the next thing I know, he's turned into my father. Staring at him is really fun. And it's rude. It goes without saying that the personalities and ingenious creative talent of those two gave birth to this work. The characters in the world of Neon Genesis Evangelion are breathing inside of them. I truly respect these two creators and the people who overflow with charm. I see Shinji in the mirror. It's too difficult and too painful to look him in the eye, so I find myself looking down. I mumble, "Don't run away. Don't run away. Don't run away." Then I slowly make my way towards the studio. Today's job is post-production. It's almost like hitting a ball around with other actors. The ball comes at me from various angles and directions. Sometimes I'm cautious, and sometimes I'm vulnerable. And it's my job to return the ball according to how I feel at the time. The more experienced actors handle the ball with an adaptability that I love. The less experienced actors return the ball with a nice, straightforward hit. The rest of the staff returns the ball in strict fashion, but it leaves a bright echo behind. As you all know, each of them are top class and so good they cause shivers to run down your spine. And as for me, it takes everything I have to just hit the ball back. But I am proud and happy to be where I am today. Right now, it's as if I'm playing the role of a wall. But at some point, I'd like to, along with Shinji, become a real player. That's what I'm thinking today as I head towards the studio. Please watch over me until this game is over. Your support is what keeps me going. On behalf of the world of Evangelion and the two Shinjis, I want to say I will be very happy if I can touch the Shinji Ikari that is hidden inside of everybody, so we can all grow up together. Thank you to the creators and to everybody. Written at home, December 13th, 1995. Oh my God, Megumi. Oh my God, Megumi. I love the idea of the two Shinjis, and it's Anno and Sadamoto. And I love the idea that we all have a Shinji Ikari inside of us, and that's why his character connects and resonates with us. And 1995, that was 27 years ago. Damn. I love it. So good. So good. And so we have Yoshito Asari, designer of Angel Sachiel, Shamshell, and Zeruel of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Before you dig in, as I write this, the Evangelion anime series is almost at the halfway point on TV. The story is starting to get interesting. But aren't you all tired of hearing about it? We on the anime staff give out these little clues here and there. And fans who are obsessed with small details give praise. They shout, "Wow," and "amazing," as they try to predict where the plot of the series is headed. Well, that's one way to enjoy Neon Genesis Evangelion. But it's like judging a meal by the presentation in the china. It looks delicious. Or, "Oh, these plates are pretty. Does that mean the food is good? I don't like the way it's arranged." Or, "I would have chosen these dishes. Does that mean the food is bad?" You scrutinize the silverware pattern of the fork. But how does it taste? Look, Evangelion is actually a very typical drama. Why not just call it Shinji's Life, the drama? And in that case, why don't people just watch it like a normal show? Listen, Evangelion is the only anime on the air this season with a concept of cuisine. All others focus only on presentation. Well, people are used to packaged food, whether it's the way it comes packaged or on a supermarket shelf or on a restaurant platter. People have forgotten that real cuisine can be eaten. Oh, the shade! Evangelion can be eaten. Stop watching it and try eating it. Evangelion is the first, last, and only show of its kind where you can take the fact that it is edible for granted. Please appreciate the happiness of being able to bite right down right now. But please also don't misunderstand me. I'm not talking about the critical acclaim for Evangelion. That's something totally separate. I said it was edible. I made no claims of its flavor. If you taste and swallow before the final episode and find it disagreeable, then by all means say so out loud. As the consumer, you have the right, just as I will speak my own mind here and elsewhere. But when you find it delicious, make even more certain that you say so, and in an even louder voice. If you like this new thing, edibility, make it known, so that some other day you'll get the chance to truly dine again. Oh my God! What the fudge? That was like the biggest just shade of you know what, these other shows, they look good, but do they have substance? Holy shit. Oh my God. And I love that message at the end. There's a little humble brag there about being critically acclaimed. But I do love that little thing at the end where, yeah, if you don't like something, people are going to be vocal about it. It's going to happen. But I love what he's saying is that if you do like something, be louder about what you do like than what you don't. Because if something is good to you and you like it and people hear about it, it will get repeated again. So if a good story like this gains traction and popularity, it will be repeated again and you'll get to dine on a show of substance again. If you just talk about trash, they're going to keep making trash. So it's yeah, when people throw money at a shitty movie, other shitty movies are going to keep getting made. But when people respond with acclaim and popularity to something of substance, then something more of substance will be created. I love that. And I love the little angel where Shamshell made a scarf. Shamshell made a scarf for Sachiel. It's love. And then Zeruel ran off with it. What the betrayal! Shamshell deserved better. Shamshell deserved much better. Angel kiss indeed. Oh my God. So then we have this big interview with Sadamoto. My thoughts at the moment. Over and above designing characters. So we have the interviewer saying, you also did the character designs for the anime version of Evangelion, and I'm sure that there were various points you paid special consideration to for each character. So to start with, please talk about Shinji. In a normal giant robot animated show, the main character possesses an enthusiastic spirit for battle. And in Eva, the main character does pilot a giant robot, but Shinji is not noted for his enthusiasm. So I had to come up with a different heroic interpretation. Rather than a reflection of a hero, he's sort of a refraction of a hero. He's something of a dry character. Yes, he's the product of our era. I started out trying to create a character that would tap into the consciousness of today's anime fans. As a product of our era, you mean the attitude that it's my life and I'm not interested in what other people think, right? Yes, he's a person who doesn't want to be interested in the opinions of others, but actually, he's very interested. He's the kind of character who would encase himself in a shell of his own making. A sort of delicate character. I wanted the kind of clean image that a woman tends to project, but also a character that is cold and unambitious. The type who would commit suicide but can't bring himself to do it. It was my intention to create someone wistful, someone who had given up on life. Did you have a model for his face? Not particularly. The image of a hero in Japan is that of Ushi Wakamaru, the name by which the legendary adventurer Minamoto no Yoshitsune, 1159 to 1189, was once known. The strong champion whom no adversity will affect. When you say hero in Japan, it conjures the impression of a man, just prior to middle age, accomplished at arms, with a burning spirit. Or maybe you think of a Bishonen, a beautiful young man. You know, in the beginning I gave Shinji longer hair. So in the dramatic scenes, it could hide his face or wave in the breeze. But when I drew that, he looked a little too wild, and so delicate the slightest pressure would break him. So finally I tried for a look where you could see the forehead through the bangs, shorter hair, the look of a boyish young girl. Speaking in concrete terms, his eyes are a girl's eyes. I drew them exactly as I drew those of Nadia, the hero of Gainax's 1990 TV series Nadia, also available in English for ADV films, etc. He's a male Nadia, just as if I'd given Nadia a masculine makeover. Lengthen Shinji's eyelashes and change the hairstyle, and you have her. Fascinating! You don't draw characters out of any love of simplicity. That's right. Our aim was to be the antithesis of all giant robot animated shows around us. Yes, it's not a world where the wind blows through your hair while you declare your purpose in a booming voice. Especially in the past 1 or 2 years, we haven't seen this type of refractive, feminine character as Shinji. I wanted to tell the tale of a main character taken from my own life, so I designed a character straight from the more stoic part of myself. So instead of someone pushing you to draw, you added pieces of yourself to draw the characters. I think that the theme of the animated version is the main character's attitude changes little by little. I think that in the anime, director Anno wrote the script in his own words, and that is why the change occurs. And the reason for the subtle changes between the animation and the manga is that Yoshiyuki Sadamoto is writing the script using Anno's characters. I think the anime is, I can't say more cute. Well, it has the feel of an honor student. The manga is a little more twisted, the feeling of a dropout. I think the reason behind this is that Anno was a high-class president in both elementary school and junior high school. He was unable to be a dropout. Fortunately, I never had that problem. You're saying that twisted sensibilities are a subtle difference? Yes. According to Anno's thought process, a twisted person is one who puts on a cool face, but once you see the inside, you see the crazy side, just like all the young people today. My approach is the opposite. On the inside, the characters actually are stoic and earnest, but the outside is twisted, just like a child. So I could never write the anime scripts in my own voice. My Shinji is quite a bit different than that. In the end, he has his resistance, his refusal to listen to what Masato has to say, but he still makes the right decision. I think that approach is where our methods differ the most. What about Rei? I played around with this character I called Ukina. She came from a story I wrote long time ago for a new type magazine called Kodo no Oni, the Ogre on the Desert Island. It appeared in the February-March 1994 issues. You take Ukina, give her shaggy, bobbed, wolf-like hair, and it's Rei. Really, I just played with her a bit, and with the way her eyes are drawn. The basic character is the same. Her character was locked in a translucent, like a shadow or the air. The kind of girl you can't touch. The girl you long for, but there is nothing about her that you can hold. I love this. This interview is great. Like, this is all like giving so much depth into like Sadamoto versus Anno, how Shinji's going to be different in this version than the other version. This is amazing. I love this interview. The same type of stance which Kinsuke and Toji take towards Rei. Yes, even more distant than that. The first time you see Rei, she's all bandaged up. The group Kiniku Shoujo Tai has a song called Hotai de Mashiro no Shoujo, the girl white with bandages. When I heard that song, an image popped into my mind. I thought, I'd like to draw a girl like that. And then I drew Rei from that image. This girl who is fated to be pilot a robot. I wanted to draw her even before I heard of Shinji. There were two things I went into the decision to make her eyes red. Two things that went into the decision. One is the fact she didn't have enough outstanding features. And the second is from a business standpoint. The makers of the EVA computer game wanted her differentiated from other characters. But personally, I think it turned out to have a great effect. She's so quiet, you can only tell her character from her gaze and her facial expressions. So she leaves an impression of having a strong stare. So like all these theories about Rei's red eyes and being tied to the angels and everything, and Sadamoto's like, nah, I just want to make her stand out. It's just a design component. EVA in the manga and the anime. Concentrating on the story, where do you think the biggest difference between the manga and the anime is? All right. Well, I did write the script of the manga using the anime as a base. It's like a fan fiction. And right at this point in the story, I think they're all pretty much the same. I've made the story more compact. I think even if you rephrase a sentence into fewer words, you're still saying the same thing. But the manga does have a different approach. Perhaps I should say it has a different choreography. The main point is that the anime has quite a few different people writing the continuity. For example, there was a case when one assistant director, Mr. Surumaki, who would later write and direct Fooly Cooly, wrote the continuity for one particular script. And when another assistant director, Masayuki, wrote a continuity for the exact same script, it came out to be completely different. I think there's a difference there. Are they talking about episode 24? Did the Fooly Cooly guy write one episode and then the other one wrote another one? There are differences of format. You can't draw a manga the same way you could animate a show. And that's the reason I tend to change the script entirely. I pick and choose what is easier to say in manga. The anime became a craze among the fans, and I want to lower the demographic to people of about 14 or 15 years old. But the content was so difficult, it just wouldn't dumb down. And if I had insisted on even trying to, it would have ceased to be Evangelion. If that were to happen, there would be no reason left to do the manga at all. So I went from planning stage and came up with the book you're reading now. You see, what I wanted to do was exactly the same storyline that was contained in the TV series, but I thought it might make the manga easier to understand if you weren't bombarded with quite the quantity of information as the anime, and if you are shown the spotlight directly through the main character's soul. That's the approach I took. I put all my strength into trying to see how the world of Evangelion would look through Shinji's heart. And I asked, how would it be different if you shone the spotlight through the souls of other characters? Also, manga is something basically drawn by only one other person. It would be impossible to fit the density of content in the anime into the manga. The anime could end in half a year, but the manga, even after its abbreviations, could take years to tell the same story. So the idea is to simplify the story into small, digestible chunks. For that reason, you shine the spotlight on different places than where it fell in the anime, and you make the flow of the main character's emotions easier to understand. Because if you make the manga exactly the same as the anime, you will never be able to make up for the loss created by the abbreviation. And even though you have the same story, you'll have a very different product. On the other hand, since the manga doesn't have any voice actors or music, it will be a very different product anyway. Well, the manga certainly does seem like a different viewpoint of the same story. We see thoughts from Shinji, which we've never saw in the anime, but were his thoughts really the same in both versions? That's the question. So, Sadamoto says, most likely his thoughts in the manga are just my own impressions. If you asked Mr. Anno, I'm sure they would be entirely different. But unless I get into Shinji's head, I can't draw the manga. One of my weak points is I have to empathize with the character before I can draw. In the first episode of the anime, over and above the dramatic elements, Shinji's dialogue was the most important part of the show and the episode. That is what made me want to draw the manga. And that is what made me purposefully change his dialogue. What I'm attempting to write here is a piece of my life, the dialogue of Shinji that would come from inside me. Man, damn! This interview is great. I hope we have these interviews in the rest of the series because that was amazing. Like, just that insight. It's doing what we were just talking about, and I freaking love it. I also love just all these shots of, like, the chairs, everything. It's so good. Yep. Love it. So, okay. So getting into this thing, the one with Rei and the glasses, I love. Toji is just perfectly animated in this. He's just wonderful. I love him so much. And I love the little shot of like Toji with the Toji looking hair. Oh my gosh. Where he's like, I'm not gonna let you slug me. Oh, it's really cute. I'm like, just stop. Stop right there. I can't. I can't, you guys. I want to get this little image of him just like giving Shinji a noogie. Yep. Too freaking precious. Done. And then Rei showing up. All right. So I like that we get Ramiel's whole deal in this. We get Ramiel's apartment. Or not Ramiel's apartment. We get Rei's apartment. I wish we got Ramiel's apartment. That'd be amazing. And Shinji just looking like he doesn't want to go there. Again, I think Sadamoto, because he comes at this from a different perspective, the way that he handles the nudity with Rei is probably the classiest out of all the versions. The rebuilds, I didn't like the rebuild in this because it made like Rei's boobs bigger. It made like the proportions different. It like kind of sexualized it in a different way. In the original, it's all very uncomfortable. And here it's kind of played like half and half, but it's respectable, I feel like, enough where Shinji's like, his hand's not on her boob. He is straddling her, but it's not as, I don't know, fan servicey, I guess is the best word for it. But again, it still gets the same concept across, right? Poor Shinji. Bless his heart. And then he tries to talk to Rei and is just uncomfortable about it because he doesn't want her to feel uncomfortable. And honestly, Rei just doesn't care. So yeah, then we have the fight with Ramiel and everything leading up there. We get the idea about Gendo and about his hands having the burns on them. And then Shinji's wondering what's up with that. And we get the backstory of him saving Rei. And Shinji's just like, oh, okay. And so, yeah, it's all done really, really well. And then Ida's just drawn so good looking at the Evangelion saying, I would love to pilot one. I'm like, man. And then Toji's like, yeah, kick some ass. It's like, oh, Toji, like just the foreshadowing, right? And the two of them. I like the idea that, yeah, when you look at Shinji's design, he does have like a female character's eyes, but I like Sadamoto's explanation of why they drew Shinji the way that they did. The only thing I don't like about the manga is that we don't have the cool moonshot. I wish we had that. That would have been really cool, but let's just keep it in the anime. Let Anno have something. But yeah, the whole fight with Ramiel is wonderful. It's really well drawn. And then we round up the whole thing with Shinji rescuing Rei and getting her out of there and then telling her not to say goodbye. And of course she thinks it's Gendo at first, but it's not. It's really well done. I love just the emotions all there. It's really cute. I love Sadamoto explaining everything. I want to see what did we get an interview at the very end? Did we? We did, with Megumi Hayashibara, who is Rei's voice actress. Okay. So throughout my encounter with the Eva, with Rei and with Yui, she does Yui's voice as well. Oh, well, damn. Okay. So that was probably kind of a spoiler for you all watching the anime in Japanese, because if you were like, wow, Rei and Yui have the same voice actress, I wonder why. That's actually great. Okay. Throughout my encounter with the Eva, with Rei and with Yui, I was able to go deep within my soul, where it gets so dark, and the more you try to see, you come closer to the point where you're almost blind. And of course, I then drew back from that place. It began when the director told me it's not that she doesn't have emotion, but that she doesn't know what it is. His technical request was that I should read my lines as flat as possible. But she's obviously not a machine. She's a human being, flesh and blood. It's a huge difference between not having emotion and not knowing emotion. After all, she could develop feelings once she's learned. So I sat down wondering how I would handle her and decided to ask some questions about my own sense of self. What exactly is an emotion to me? Why and how do they happen for me? Where do my own feelings come from? Nobody was asking me to ask these things. I wasn't even sure what good it could do, but I found that it didn't matter. I just wanted to do it. Because I was sure of one thing at least, even if that thing was this vague idea. Expression isn't emotion. Emotions, rather, are sometimes something hidden deep inside the heart. The mind may not even be aware of them, and also the mind may not even want to know. The subconscious has something deeper beneath it. These emotions float on a dark pool that rises up to try and drown them. It's your innermost conspiracy. The way that you keep yourself ignorant of yourself. Oh, that's good. Drain it. Draw your feelings out. And of course, this may be painful, but otherwise, who are you? This is about the difference between what you say and what you feel. What you say might sound more noble and this more socially acceptable, so you try to convince yourself it's also what you feel. And if it isn't, if your true feelings are festering deep inside, filling you with a sick, subtle poison, look at Shinji. Why does he continue to fight as an EVA pilot? The story kept changing. He said it's because everyone tells him to, because only he can do it, because it has to be done to save humanity. Selfless and lofty sentiments for sure, and he believed these reasons to be genuine. Wrong. He wanted his father to approve of him, to say he was a good boy. How selfish of him, really, to be a human being. The important thing is to realize how you truly feel and to accept it as a legitimate part of who you are. I'm not saying this search of yourself is a risk-free proposition. You must be particularly careful if you find you are beginning to pry under your jealousies and under things that happened to you long ago. Be patient. Your deep feelings aren't going anywhere. After all, you can take your time to feel them through. You may not even find that the block is something more familiar, that it didn't lie nearly as deep as you feared. As you gain experience seeing into yourself, you'll be surprised how your path seems to open up before you. All the things that seem so frustrating will begin to untangle. And I also don't wish to say that this is always the way that it should go. I don't want to force it on someone who just wants to be alone right now. Everyone runs on their own time. There's a different moment for these things for each of us. But I do wish to say this is how I learned to like my own life more, to have more fun with it. When things aren't going right for you, quite often the answer lies within yourself. Let's go back at last to Rei. She doesn't know emotion, so there's no difference between what she says and feels. There's nothing ulterior about her. At first sight, then you may theorize, that is where her and her great beauty comes from, this surface, not without depth, but with the absence of its necessity. Someone truly mystical. No, Rei's beauty comes from the truth that she has feelings. When she cried, it meant the waters of the pool were coming out at last. The struggle to draw your feelings forth, the reconciliation between your surface and your depth, that, I believe, is where we truly become alive, truly become human beings. And when I found the warmth below the coldness in her words, I synchronized with Rei for the first time. And it felt so good that I want to say thank you from the bottom of my own heart. Megumi Hayashibara, 1996. What is this deep existential conversation in this interview? What? Megumi, oh my God. Hell yeah. Girl. I love it. That's all right. I love the idea that not feeling emotion, but not knowing emotion. Awesome. And then we have the sound glossary. Man, that was amazing. I was so on board with this first volume. Absolutely. Hell yes. I'm all here for it. Yep. All here for it. So that was a lot of fun. I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about volume 4, 5, and 6, which is what we're going to read next week. This was wonderful. I'm gonna go and re-look through this volume and maybe take some more screenshots and put them on the Discord and on Twitter. But yeah, this was amazing. I'm really excited to be reading the rest of the manga, and I like the concept that Sadamoto is going to be taking this series, and not only taking this series, but doing it in their own way and kind of as a complement to Anno's series. Because Anno and Sadamoto have worked together on the anime series and on this. And I like this Sadamoto being like, okay, this is my take on it. This is if I took Anno's characters and made it my own. I can't wait for Kaoru, even though it's going to be like the second to last volume. But yeah, I'm really excited to see their take on Asuka. The cover with Asuka is going to be like the classic one everyone has seen over and over again. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. But yeah, oh my God. I really enjoyed this. So, I'm curious to know your thoughts down below. Please, no manga spoilers. I want to go into the rest of this manga blind and see what happens. Please, no spoilers for the manga, but I'm so excited to see where the story goes from here. And this will be like the manga version of the rebuilds, I suppose. We'll see. So, in any case, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with volumes 4, 5, and 6 of the Neon Genesis Evangelion manga.